Are carbon fiber wrapped barrels really as good as all the modern hype say they are? I mean, when I was a kid, carbon was crud you cleaned out of your rifle barrel, and fiber was what your mom told your dad he needed to eat more of. Folks, I'm Joseph von Benedikt with the Backcountry Hunting Podcast. Appearing here as a guest host on Ron Spomer Outdoors, it's a real privilege. Today we're going to explore the advantages and disadvantages of the modern carbon fiber wrapped barrel. These days it seems like every new hot rod hunting rifle has some level of carbon fiber in its construction. And, make a point of bragging about it. Stocks, barrels, even metal parts, small parts are sometimes now machined out of carbon fiber. But for the purposes of this discussion, we'll limit ourselves to rifle barrels. What advantages and disadvantages does carbon fiber offer to riflemen and to hunters? The premise, of course, is to provide a barrel that's stiff, like a large diameter target barrel, but weighs no more than a standard sporter profile barrel on a typical hunting rifle. Increased accuracy potential is the end goal, and in the barrels that succeed, you usually get more forgiving accuracy across a wide spectrum of different loads. You also get maintained accuracy over a longer shot string, meaning that as the barrel heats, your rifle will continue to hold a tight group. Now, properly applied carbon fiber is also alleged to provide faster barrel cooling characteristics. Some barrel makers accomplish this, others do not. So those are the primary advantages. The only big disadvantage is cost, and that is substantial indeed. A premium carbon fiber barrel will set you back about double what an all-steel barrel will. So let's start back at the beginning. And although Christensen Arms wasn't the very first manufacturer to introduce carbon fiber wrapped barrels, they are the one that made the type popular, widespread, common across the United States. And their barrels sometimes, even often, worked very well. As with any new fledgling technology, there were some issues. There were some issues generally related with separation caused by differing heat expansion characteristics of carbon fiber versus steel. And of course, when you get separation there's inconsistency and accuracy goes to pot. So over time, Christensen worked that out, and other companies eventually began building the carbon fiber wrapped barrels, right? The first, in my opinion, and my experience, that really perfected the carbon fiber wrapped barrel was a company called Proof Research. You've probably heard of them. Now, Proof Research is at its heart an aerospace company. They build carbon fiber parts for rocket ships and so forth. As such, they have an extremely good grasp on how to deal with extraordinary heat and how to make carbon fiber marry well with materials that have different heat expansion characteristics. So what Proof Research did in its barrel making division, which candidly is a very small portion of that company's business, they started with premium steel blanks, single point cut rifled barrels, generally considered to be the most accurate and consistent of all the different types of rifling you can create inside of a barrel. Also, the most work intensive. So there's that trade-off. But when you're looking for the best, that's generally what shooters and manufacturers go for. Next, Proof Research found a way to apply carbon fiber, laying it along the barrel in a manner that accomplished several things, made it stronger and stiffer, and also gathered heat and shunted it down the length of the carbon fibers into the surface of that carbon fiber wrapped barrel. Now, this isn't exactly scientifically correct, but you can think of heat traveling down those carbon fibers the same way that light transfers down the length of a fiber optic. Consider an archery sight or one of those glowing fiber optic sights on iron sights, modern iron sights on a lever action, or even a turkey gun, something like that. You can have a little bit of light at one end and the other end of that fiber positively glows. Well, I like to think of carbon fiber doing the same thing. When properly applied with heat, it pulls it down the length of the carbon fiber, and if that carbon fiber is wrapped appropriately onto that barrel, it will pull the heat away from the steel core to the surface of the carbon fiber, and this helps it cool more quickly. While we're on that subject, let's just dig a little bit deeper into some of the tests that have been done. Both independent scientific testing facilities and very non-scientific individuals experimenting have thoroughly tested whether or not proof research barrels have an actual advantage in cooling. The coolest of the coolest, no pun intended there, of the tests that I've heard about was told me by an old hand loading and accuracy guru named Roland Black. He was an inspiration and a mentor to me in many ways, and he was a big fan of carbon fiber barrels, something rare to see in the old guard of purist riflemen, right? It's a new material. It's until recently not been widely understood, and a lot of people just didn't believe in it. So Roland told me about a test where a laboratory, and I apologize, I can't remember the name of it, put cameras on barrel breeches, 7mm Remington Magnum, if memory serves, and these cameras recognized heat and could kind of see through material like an X-ray sees bones inside of a body, right? So they hit the record button and started firing shots through a steel barrel and a carbon fiber barrel of equal weight, okay? Not diameter, but weight, again, if memory serves. It's been a few years. Both of them heated up quite quickly with a hot spot in front of the chamber, which is typically where it occurs, right? That's where you get the most erosion right up front in hot rod cartridges. And then something unique happened. While that hot spot in the steel barrel, the all steel barrel right in front of the chamber continued to glow brighter and brighter, indicating more and more heat building, the proof research barrel wrapped in carbon fiber, the temperature kind of stabilized, and rather than a short section of it spiking in heat, it spread down the length of the core, which was a very cool scientific proof that the proof barrel cooled more effectively. On the other end of the spectrum, legendary gun riders such as Lane Simpson have done tests with candy thermometers and so forth, where they'd shoot a string of shots, say 10 shots out of a 308, two 308s, one with a steel barrel, one with a carbon fiber wrapped proof research barrel, and then they'd stick a thermometer down them and they'd watch them to see which one cooled more quickly. And invariably, the proof research barrel cooled 10 to 15% more quickly. So there is definitive proof that it works when applied correctly. The other thing that proof research did with its barrels is they used a bonding matrix that absolutely married the expansion characteristics of the steel core with the carbon fiber, so they do not have separation issues. They're durable barrels. How durable? I once saw a test early on in Proof Research's career as a barrel maker, where one of their gunsmiths had just built a rifle. He went and shot a group with it, a couple groups, at a 100-yard target. He then used a barrel wrench and spun that barrel off and used the barrel to demolish a cinder block. And I'm not saying crack it. He busted that thing into little pieces, banging on it with that barrel as if it were a sledgehammer. He screwed the barrel back into the action, torqued it down, and shot another group just as good as the previous ones. Very, very impressive test. So those are some of the entry level or the high level advantages of a proof research barrel. I should say a carbon fiber wrapped barrel done right, because now there are a bunch of people doing it right, a bunch of manufacturers. How about accuracy? Well, the whole idea behind a carbon fiber wrapped barrel is to achieve a barrel that's as stiff as a big fat target barrel, but weighs the same amount as a standard hunting rifle barrel, so you can still carry it up the mountain, right? Everybody wants the accuracy of a heavyweight steel target barrel, but you can't carry that through challenging, even dangerous terrain in the mountains, the backcountry, right? So does the carbon fiber wrapped concept play out in practice in terms of accuracy? In my experience, yes, it does. And there are anomalies, just like there are anomalies with all steel barrels. But what I have seen through testing with literally dozens of different rifles with myriads of factory ammunition loads and hand loads fired through them, carbon fiber, when properly applied, gives you certain advantages. One, it seems to dampen vibration, barrel oscillation. Whatever form you believe that takes, it minimizes the adverse influence of those harmonics and vibrations, right? This means that you get less variation from load to load. And in a properly built rifle with a good carbon fiber wrapped barrel, you're going to get good accuracy out of a greater percentage of the loads you test than with your average steel barrel. And I've proven that out to myself over and over again. Generally, they're easy to tune for accuracy. It doesn't seem like the nodes are quite as tight when you're hand loading, trying to find that perfect accuracy node. They're easier to find and they're broader and more forgiving. That's a beautiful thing. Because they're stiff, they hold accuracy better over a long string of shots than a thin barrel does, like this, what we'd call a pencil barrel or a mountain rifle contour barrel on this Kimber. This is a very accurate rifle. It'll shoot easily under a minute of angle. These are both 280 Ackley improved rifles for 3 shots. And then it starts to open up. The groups start to open up. My apologies. These are not both 280 Ackleys. I have one like this that is, but this specific one is a 300 PRC. And this barrel and the others like it that I've tested will shoot 7 to 10 shot strings before you start to see a degradation in accuracy. Very, very impressive and a beautiful thing, whether you're a competitor or maybe you're a wildlife management hunter in the UK and you're trying to shoot multiple deer in a culling operation, or in New Zealand or something doing the same thing, or worst case, you're an American hunter that's had things go south on a deer hunt and you've got 6 or 7 shots downrange and you're working hard to bring this thing to a quick and final close. It's nice to know that your rifle will hold accuracy through a long string of shots. Another thing that I've noticed is properly built carbon fiber wrapped barrels exhibit a smaller point of impact shift from load to load, different loads, and different bullet weights. Sure, there's going to be some, there'll always be some, but it tends to be a lot more minimal, in my experience, with a Proof Research or similar quality carbon fiber wrapped barrel. Now, I got to just jump back for a minute to the Christensen Arms rifles because they have got it pretty well sorted out. Those issues with core and carbon fiber separation are in the past. They're doing a good job now. Let's talk about some other manufacturers now that are building really good carbon fiber wrapped barrels. Bartline is one. Bartline's always been my go-to in all steel barrels. They just build a terrific barrel and they do a lot of cool custom stuff like gain twist rifling if you want it, just for something different or whatever. They've started a year or 2 back doing carbon fiber wrapped barrels and they're doing a great job. Another one is Gunworks. Now, Gunworks is kind of the tip of the spear in, let's call it precision hunting rifles, where they're driving innovation to ethically and lethally extend the maximum range of modern hunters. Whether you're on board with that or not is a topic for a different discussion. But that's kind of their market position and the part that they've played so effectively over the past decade or so. Gunworks generally used Proof Research barrels for a long, long time for its carbon fiber wrapped barrels. Recently, Gunworks has started building its own barrels, and they're a little smaller in diameter than the Proof barrels. They're a tad lighter, and from all of the early accounts that I've heard, they're shooting fantastic. So however they're doing it right, okay? Now, there are others. There's a newish company called Paradigm that claims to have solved, that's a pretty strong word, I'm just going to throw this out there. I haven't used one of Paradigm's barrels yet, but I had a very interesting interview with one of the owners there recently, and they claim to have solved the heat accuracy degradation issue. He's saying that it doesn't matter how many shots you fire through it, their barrels will hold point of impact, and that's pretty interesting too. We'll be watching that space going forward. So there are some other companies that make carbon fiber wrapped barrels, but do it in a different way. They sleeve the barrels, okay? Now, let's talk this through, and then I'll just give my 2 cents on this type of barrel. Basically, they create that same thin steel core, but then they use a sleeve with airspace between the sleeve and the core of the barrel itself. This is dead airspace, and you build tension in. Now, a tensioned barrel has some accuracy advantages. You can do a little bit to minimize vibration and so forth. However, it can be very difficult to do when you're using carbon fiber to tension steel. The most successful tension barrels in the past have usually used aluminum or some other type of metal to tension the steel, which is a little bit, I suspect, more controllable. Now, these sleeved barrels are being put on some very nice rifles these days. Weatherby uses them. Springfield on their Waypoint rifles uses them. And they tend to shoot pretty darn good. Great hunting partner of mine, Austin Brown, has a PET 280 Ackley custom rifle with one that shoots fantastic and has done since he first built it. So yeah, they can work. There is one area where I kind of raise my eyebrows at one claim. They claim that their barrels cool very quickly as well, right? Now, in my past, in doing a little bit of construction, and all the way from that realm to layering with hunting clothing, I have learned that dead airspace is a very effective insulator. And my skeptical side says, you know what, if that is just a thin sleeve of carbon fiber over a thin barrel core, that dead airspace inside is simply serving as insulation, so you don't feel the heat in that carbon fiber barrel. It's being trapped inside of it. And so you get the illusion that your barrel is staying cool. I don't have any scientific examples to back that up. It's just, again, a skeptic inside of me. But the fact is, they do tend to shoot pretty good. So whether or not they hold their hot barrel accuracy as well is a different question. Generally, that 3 to 5 shot group is going to be just fine out of such barrels. So one other thing, finishing barrels. So this one right here you see is a Proof Research barrel, and they wrap the barrel and then they machine it down, whether it's on some kind of a fancy dancy grinder or a lathe or whatnot. It varies depending on the barrel maker, but they grind it to shape, lathe turn it to shape, and they just leave that exterior the way it is. And this, I believe, helps shed that heat so quickly because there's a lot of exposed ends of those carbon fibers. They're embedded in that bonding matrix, but they can shed that heat quickly. Other companies will wrap their barrel in a thin piece of carbon fiber cloth, giving it that beautiful basket weave exterior that people kind of, for a while, expected to see on a carbon fiber barrel. Those are the 2 primary finishes you'll see on carbon fiber these days. Now, what about ordering a carbon fiber wrapped barrel? How do you do that? The most common way is in blank form, where you'll just order a blank with a shank and a front end, both longer than you need, and have a gunsmith fit it to your action, and off you go. Of course, you can just order a finished rifle with one on. You can buy one off the shelf now, what with the Springfields and the Springfield Waypoints and the Christensen Arms rifles and so forth. There are plentiful options out there, the Weatherbys. And then up into the nice stuff, the high, and it's all nice stuff now, but I mean the premium stuff, such as the Proof Researches, the Gunworks rifles, the Altera Arms rifles, and so forth. There is another way now too, and that's with the pre-fit barrel. If your action is machined to tight enough specifications, and there are certain ones that are rated for this. Most of them are custom, but the Tikka is one that's not custom that'll do this. If your action is machined to tight enough tolerances, you can purchase a pre-fit barrel, spin your old one off with a barrel vise you buy from Brownells, torque the new one on, and go out and shoot it. The head spacing tolerances and the action tolerances are held to tight enough standards that your head spacing is going to be acceptable, and they're rated for that. And it's a very cool way to do kind of a personal DIY upgrade on your rifle. Be aware you're going to have to change the barrel channel in your stock because Proof Research and other carbon fiber wrap barrels are fatter than most, right? If you look at the barrel channel on this Kimber, you can see it's very slender. It's free floated, but it would not house a carbon fiber wrapped barrel. Also be aware that you need to have enough width in your forend that you can effectively open that barrel channel up and fit a fat barrel in there. Just a couple things to consider. Now, how about length considerations? It seems like most of the people really buying into the modern carbon fiber wrapped barrel are also trending towards using suppressors, which is a beautiful thing. They're safe for hearing, they're less disturbance, they reduce recoil, they tend in about 8 out of 10 rifles to increase accuracy. Suppressors are good, right? As a result, more and more rifle manufacturers are building models or blanks with shorter barrels. So it's common now to find 22-inch magnums and 18 to 20-inch standard cartridges such as the 30-06 and so forth. It's pretty cool. You're going to lose a little bit of velocity, but probably not as much as you think, and it'll make your rifle manageable when you have that suppressor on the end. That said, you can always order a standard 24 or 26-inch, standard or magnum length, as traditionalists would call them, rifle barrel, and they work great. Generally, people are putting a threaded protector. They're having the muzzle threaded so they can use a brake or a suppressor, and then they'll put a thread cap on that in case they want to shoot it without. Some gunsmiths don't like working with carbon fiber barrels. A lot of the old guard are suspicious of the type. They haven't used them enough to confirm to themselves that they actually do what they say they do and are worth the additional cost. Also, it's worth noting that as of yet, I haven't seen carbon fiber wrapped barrels that are light enough to match the weight of an honest to goodness mountain rifle, such as this little Kimber. This thing weighs 6 pounds, 4 ounces with the scope aboard. Very slender barrel. Again, for a careful shooter, you've got 3 shots before accuracy starts to degrade. It should be all you'll ever need for something like a high country mule deer or elk hunt or a sheep hunt, right? Now, you won't get the long, hot shot string advantages and the vibration dampening characteristics, the accuracy benefits of a carbon fiber wrapped barrel, but you're gonna reduce weight by 1/2 to 3/4 of a pound. This Proof Research Glacier TI is a super lightweight rifle as well. It's got a titanium action and a Proof Research carbon fiber wrapped barrel. This one weighs 7.5 pounds going up the mountain with the scope on. So it's still very, very light, right? Jack O'Connor used to say that the ideal weight for a mountain rifle is 7.5 pounds. This one is exactly there, and you get all those beautiful accuracy enhancing characteristics of the carbon fiber barrel. So what's the conclusion here, folks? Carbon fiber wrapped barrels are trendy, and there's always some marketing hype there, right? However, they're also proving to have measurable value. I'm reluctant to admit this because I'm something of a purist at heart, and I am still skeptical of any firearm development really since the flintlock, right? But I'll go out on a limb. I believe a premium carbon fiber wrapped barrel is the best way to go for today's precision hunters, particularly those that hunt the backcountry. In my experience, they offer increased accuracy. They'll shoot more loads accurately, they hold accuracy better as the barrel heats, and they cool faster. All of this at a weight that you can still carry up the mountain. So that's a pretty profound development in the last 15 to 20 years of our modern hunting rifles. Now, before wrapping up, folks, I'd like to quickly remind you that I host the Backcountry Hunting Podcast, where we talk about, well, all things hunting, but we have a focus on the West and on technical shooting, firearms, optics, cartridges, bullets, and so forth. Would love to have you join us there and listen in. Now, you can also hit me with questions personally. I'll try and answer all of them. You can do that on Instagram. It's just my name, Joseph von Benedikt on Instagram, or you can email me directly. That email address is joseph@backcountrypodcast.com. I'll do my best to respond to all questions. As Ron Spomer would say, hunt honest and shoot straight. I'm Joseph von Benedikt, and I'll see you in the backcountry.